Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lebanon Utility Service Board meeting for Wednesday, October 9th, 2019. Let the record reflect that all board members are present. There was no working session prior, and the meeting was properly advertised. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from the September 18th meeting. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
I'd second that motion.
Neil, I need to abstain. I wasn't at the last meeting, so.
Okay. Motion made by Aaron to approve the minutes, seconded by Jim, and Dan is abstaining. Any other conversation on the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, thank you. Next item is the IMPA Power Factor Capacitor Replacement Study. Our Electric Operations Manager, Jeff Greeno. Looks like you're up there for a couple items here, Jeff, so good to see you.
It's good to see you all. I have a couple items here to bring to the board for discussion and approval tonight. The first is the capacitor placement study to be performed by IMPA. Lebanon Utilities has paid several $1,000s in penalties due to our power factor not being correct in the last couple years. On a heavy peak load months, our power factor drops due to the demand of extra power from the consumers. Adding capacitor banks on key circuits and at correct placement sites will greatly raise our power factor and help get it to the 97% or better and keep it there. This will keep Lebanon Utilities from paying those high reactive power penalties and save a lot of money for us. I have a picture here. This is what typical capacitor bank would look like as hanging on a pole. This is kind of a better picture of it to give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say capacitor banks. So I would recommend that the board approve the capacitor placement study to be done by IMPA for $19,500. This will come out of the capital improvements, the operating cash flow line item number 8, systems upgrades and improvements, and that all documents be signed by the general manager. Are there any questions on this?
Jeff, I just have a couple of questions. So we currently have some capacitors, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We have several capacitors around town. Most of them are not on because they're not properly in the proper places. That's why IMPA needs to come in and do their study so we can move them and get them in the proper placement throughout the system.
Okay, so we wouldn't necessarily be adding capacitors, maybe just relocating current ones?
We might be adding some. It depends on what the study, how it
Right.
comes out.
And it sounds like it's going to be a money saver in the end because we're paying some fees now that we don't want to pay.
Yes, we're paying pretty hefty fees for not having good power factor.
Okay.
But there could be some additional cost if we have to add some capacitor banks?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's no different than buying transformers or other equipment for the lines.
And our personnel is capable of installing,
Yes,
doing the work.
absolutely.
What's the time frame on a study like this, Jeff? A ballpark?
I'm really not sure. I bet it would be a couple, 2 or 3 months,
Okay.
possibly.
All right. Any other questions for Jeff? Not, I would entertain some motions.
I'd move to approve the capacitor placement study by IMPA Service Corporation in the amount of $19,500 and authorize the general manager to sign all pertinent documents.
Second.
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Dan to approve the capacitor placement study by IMPA. Any further discussion or questions for Jeff? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, Jeff. Looks like you got another item. The transformer maintenance is an action item, and going to discuss refurbishing a 69 kV breaker.
That is correct. I'm bringing to the board this evening a refurbishing of the SF6 69 kV breaker. If I could show a picture of this. These are out at the substations. This breaker is a spare, not the one in the picture, but the one that we're going to get refurbished. It's a spare that we have in case of emergency. We have these breakers at substations to open and close the 69,000 volt transmission line. They also open in an event of a line fault on the transmission line, which protects the substation transformer. These breakers are what we use to operate our internal 69 kV loop around the city. So on this picture here, this is at the west sub. We have two of these. We have one on the west side of the sub and one on the east side. And how these work at the subs, the transmission line comes in one side of the sub. It goes through one of these breakers, goes through all the bus bar system, goes back out through that breaker, back on to our internal loop. The bus bar system inside the middle of the sub there is what feeds the substation transformer.
Let's see, where's the backup breaker in this scenario?
The backup breaker, like right now, we have two feeds into the city that's feeding our internal loop right now, so we're in pretty good shape. But if something would happen, say they needed to take one of the 69 lines down for maintenance, or something happens, we're back down to one feed on feeding our internal loop, then we'd have no way, if one of these breakers went bad, we'd have no way to complete the loop going around the city. There'd be an open spot, and that could possibly mean we couldn't get one of the substations back.
So is the backup breaker in the existing loop?
No, it's not. The backup breaker is behind our shop.
Okay.
It's a spare.
So if a breaker goes out, there will be a power outage of some sort till we get the backup breaker in place? Or
Not at this time, there wouldn't be, because like I said, we have the new 69 kV.
the new secondary loop, okay.
It's up and working, so right now we're in good shape. But it's just as a precaution to have.
Jeff, I assume this $23,000 number for refurbishing this is substantially less than it would cost to have it purchase a new one?
Yes, absolutely.
What would be the time frame? Let's say that we don't rebuild this and we have a disaster that takes one out and we need to get one. What's the period of time that it would take to secure one if we don't have a plan B, if we didn't have a reserve breaker?
It would depend on if any of the manufacturers had any on hand.
We're
So,
exposed. We're
yeah.
really exposed is
It's
the
kind of
point.
like ordering a specialty transformer. It may take up several weeks.
Sure. So if we refurbish this and we still have it mothballed, is it going to set outside? And if doing so, will it degrade over a period of time if it's not used?
No, it should not.
Okay, so
I
it should
mean,
maintain,
These set outside,
Right.
every day, all the weather. That's what it'll do too. It's like having a backup transformer at our shop.
Sure.
So we just got a backup breaker for the substation in case something happens.
but I guess my point though is it's not like a car we're setting for a car is worse than using it. So we're sure that if we refurbish it, that it'll be ready to go.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Is this,
What's the cost of a new one, Jeff?
I I do not know that at this time. I can get some quotes and bring back at the next meeting, but
Is this a previously used breaker that we are refurbishing?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've used it at some point, or we purchased it used, or do you know the history of it?
I don't know the history of it. It
Okay.
was here when I came. I assume it was part of one of the substations that you might have took out.
Okay.
So I noticed this in the quote, this statement here. There are several parts missing on the breaker. We understand that Lebanon will be purchasing these parts. Can you explain what that's
Yes.
about?
Premier came out and they looked at this breaker, you know, it was all visual. They opened up the cabinet, went through everything, but you might compare it to say like you're working on your car. When you get deeper into the engine, you might find something else bad. You might find a gear cracked. You know, it could be,
So have these missing parts been identified yet?
yes, one of them was there was an air tank in it. This particular model of the breaker uses compressed air to push the gas to snuff out the arc internally, and it had a rust hole in the bottom of it, so it wouldn't hold air. So it'll have to be replaced on it.
Do we have the replacement parts on hand, or will we be purchasing them new?
We'll have to purchase another one. We had to purchase one earlier last year, or late last year. We found one at the north sub, the same thing had happened. The air tank had rusted out on the bottom side, it wouldn't hold air. So we had to replace that air tank. And
About how much money are we talking about for these replacement parts? Can you estimate that?
I would say probably anywhere from 500 to 5,000 maybe, at the most.
That's not, so those parts aren't included in their estimate, right? The
Right,
okay.
right. This estimate is just for them to work on it to get it operating. And this is a specialty item, so it takes a specialized company to work on equipment like this, and that's why I chose Premier Power. They're out of Indianapolis. I had the opportunity to go down there and see their shop and see how they repair things, and they're the only ones that I was aware of that's even close to us. They're gonna come, this price one, they're gonna come pick it up, so we don't have to worry about trying to move it and damaging it. They'll take that responsibility on and take it down to their shop.
And then will they, if they identify, which maybe they already have, that we need some additional parts, will they say, hey, you know, the price we gave you was this, plus some additional parts?
They will give us a list of parts for our approval to yes or no
Okay.
before anything's installed.
Yeah, I guess my biggest question on this in the end would be, it sounds to me like refurbishing this is gonna be substantially less than buying a new one, and by substantially, I mean, I'm just guessing a new one's $100,000, I have no idea. But if we can refurbish one and get it back to new for less than half that,
Yeah, I don't foresee a big expense on parts. I mean, I don't remember how much the air tank was, but it wasn't too awful.
I think we ought to know what the cost of a new one is.
Okay.
yeah, do you mind just
Do you mind
getting a cost, just one that if we decided to buy one new, what our cost would be compared to
Okay.
this, and then that way we'll have a little better idea. I think this is a great idea, I just,
Oh, yeah.
no idea what a new one would
I
cost.
don't either, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially with winter coming.
So do you want to table this till next time, or?
Yeah, I mean, and this is not something that, I mean, I know it's important that we do this or have one on hand, but this is something that can wait, 30 days, right?
Yeah.
Or-
Well, it's been sitting back here, the previous administration thought it was a good idea to get it refurbished.
Okay,
I was just trying to,
yep.
Yeah.
All right,
Then I move that we table to the next meeting, action item number 5, transformer maintenance and looking for additional information on the cost of a new one, so that we have a good comparison.
I second that.
All right, motion made by Dan, seconded by Bill to table item 5 on the transformer or breaker refurbishing for additional information. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a question for
Yep.
the transformer down at the Laos substation.
Yes.
Have you had any luck on disposing of that, or have you heard anything on that?
We have the bid packets out, so I haven't heard of any
Okay.
of them coming back yet.
I was
We
just
got them
curious.
out like a week and a half ago.
All right.
So.
Okay.
All right, we'll table this. Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks, Jeff, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is approval of the claims. Everybody had a chance to review the current claims, and any discussion or questions?
I'll make a motion, we pay the claims.
Second.
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Bill to approve the claims. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Claims are approved. Next item is other business that may come before the board. Anybody on the board have any additional discussion or discussing points? Any comments from the public tonight? All right, looks like the next meeting is scheduled for, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's unusual that you'd have something to say.
I can leave. I can leave.
that
I
was
just
a
saw an
pretty good
open mic, so I thought I would step on up.
Mike's on. Ryan, what's going on?
We had an incident on the 24-inch main that I wanted to let everybody know about. It just occurred on Monday afternoon, and let everybody know kind of what the process is and the emergency process that we've kind of put in place. We were exercising a valve. We started our fall flush on Monday. So first thing we do is we flush the 24-inch main that feeds as our main feed line, our only feed line from the Sugar Creek water plant to town. We flush the fire hydrant on US 52 first at the Old City dump, and then we move down to the hydrant on US 52 at the highway department, the state highway department. Then we move to the drain that we have attached to the 24-inch main so we can flush that whole thing out. Well, in order to do that, there is a valve right there that stops the flow to town to where you're not pulling water from town, you're only pulling water out of the 24-inch main so you can get a good scour. Upon exercising that valve, it broke. Thankfully, it broke in the open position, which is good, but there is the opportunity for it to collapse closed, which will completely stop our feed from Sugar Creek until the repair is made. So we have an emergency contract with Atlas that was put into place specifically for this. We contacted them. They came out on Monday or maybe Tuesday morning. It's kind of all rushed together at this point, and gave us, got a parts list, and unfortunately can't get the parts and be here till Monday. Because of it, the 24-inch valve is just not something that they had on a shelf. I didn't realize that. I kind of had hoped that they would have the parts we need on the shelf, but that's just not the case. So I got a quote from them, or a potential cost estimate, I guess is what it would be, and it is about $60,000. Now, that is a ultimate worst-case scenario. That is anticipating 2 working days, which in reality, according to my supervisor and my staff, should only be 1 day. It is giving us that as a type of worst-case scenario. I did send an email back to get a line item from him, but this was about 4 o'clock when we were exchanging emails, so I haven't received anything yet. And also asked him a few questions on, and I talked to my supervisor to where if they have the parts and my crew's, if we're waiting for them to get us the parts, if my crew's comfortable repairing it, we would just purchase the parts from them. According to the agreement, it's a 15% markup on the parts, but then we would save the labor and the emergency rates on the labor. But if my crew's not comfortable doing it, I'm not going to put them obviously in that position to do that, because to save a little bit of money could put us in a much larger emergency that we just can't afford. So I just wanted to let everybody know that situation, and I can answer any questions. There is no leak. So I want to assure you that there's not water running on the ground. It has not affected any pressure or any services by any means. Flushing is still continued throughout this week, including today. But it is something that we just can't ignore, and it needs to be fixed immediately. And time-wise, if we went out and, got the bids, and it would be the next board meeting, I would lose a lot of sleep if we had to wait that long to get this
Well,
repaired.
this is the reason we have those contracts in place, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it's for. Now, this is the first time, so this contract was in place before I assumed this position, and this is the first time we've used it. And we actually had a discussion with BF&S, who kind of orchestrates that. I had one on Friday before this even happened about getting bids on, or a quote package on continuing this next year, either with Atlas or a new company.
Right.
And so this would be a good test to see if we're happy with Atlas's performance,
How they perform.
how they perform,
Right.
if the cost is, yeah, you're gonna pay more, but is it worth the emergency services that they're providing? And then also, I talked to John Leitner of Butler, Fairman, and Cipher about maybe putting in the contract for next year some specifics of stuff that we would like to see kept on a shelf, so that we could do maybe a 24-hour repair. We do have 24-inch sleeves, so if there was a leak, we could start the repair process ourselves, but we do not have any valves or anything like that, because that's a $20,000 to $25,000 item that's pretty expensive to be sitting on the shelf.
How old is that valve? You have any idea?
It's, from what I understand, and I'm going to do some more research on it, but it's an original, so it would be late 70s, early 80s. About when I was born. Give or take.
Yeah, you had to throw that in.
Give or take.
Did you break that by hand when you opened it?
Do what?
Did you break it when you opened it by hand?
It's one of those where I think for the last probably 4 or 5 years, we were just fingers crossed that nothing happened to it.
Yeah.
I did speak to Ed about this. I sent him an email, but I also spoke to him on the phone. We are also going to look into, the next valves are pretty far down the road. So in 2020, we're going to look at putting some valves a little bit closer to increase our valving to where if one fails, we have a much smaller impact on that. When this repair is made, Sugar Creek plant will have to be shut down. So that's why I let them know that a 2-day repair is not realistic by any means.
So how many of the other valves in that line are original valves?
All of them, probably.
All of them, probably.
I don't know if all of them, because I think that we've had a couple repairs, but I would say 90%. I mean, yeah,
Okay,
it's
so-
a large number,
so
but I don't know how many.
How many valves are we talking about total?
I'm not 100% sure. I can get you that information for
Yeah.
either the next meeting, or I can
I'd like
send it
to
out in
see
an
it.
email.
Be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we may, this is the beginning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they're not getting any newer.
No, they're not
No,
getting
we
any
get-
newer.
we
So,
may have to be proactive. on
yeah,
that.
I think if we're proactive and try to look at maybe a replacement program,
I am instituting next year a valve exercise program.
okay.
So my plan is, what we can do is we can look at the age of the infrastructure on those valves. Maybe just go ahead and purchase one of them, because even if we don't use it, we could have it sitting on the shelf. But that way, in the exercise program, if one does break, we have it here, we can go ahead and, it wouldn't be as much of an emergency, because we're prepared to replace it. We just hope we don't have to. But,
Yeah.
that's the danger of an exercise program, is if it hasn't been done,
Yeah.
we're going to
Right.
break stuff. But I would rather have a planned situation
Yeah.
than a 2 in the morning when you got to valve something off and then you break something.
Well, when they do get the valve, how long is Sugar Creek going to be down to do the repair?
Well, so when they say 2 days, that's also, mobilization and the dig and everything else. We're planning on, in one day, being, I'm hoping between 8 to 10 hours.
So the town's gonna be without water?
No, sir, no. So, we can valve on,
That's
closer
what
to
I
town. And Chicago Street, for that amount of time, first of all, we'll plan it, so we'll have, the towers will be totally full.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And the pressure will be up, and we'll wait till, like school's already in session to where, people have already gone to work, to where our usage kind of drops
Okay.
in the middle of the day. And then, Chicago Street can handle it. We can valve off to where the Sugar Creek line can stay full, to where anybody that's connected to that line will not be out of water. The turkey farm, Purdue Turkey Farm on 52 is a huge customer, but they have well backups, so they can just shut off their feed from town and go straight to their wells, and so they will be without any service interruption whatsoever. And we'll coordinate with that with them also.
All right,
That's good.
The impact, if everything goes correctly, should be very minimal.
all right.
Any other questions?
Appreciate the info, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Anything else from the public? All right, next meeting is scheduled at this point for October 23rd, which might be canceled or rescheduled due to some conflicts, but that will be advertised in plenty of time. So, anything else for the board or from the board? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second?
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Aaron to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Standing here now with Mel Kenyon, a former 7-time USAC midget champion.
They're all great. Every win is great. The last one is just as important and great as the first one.
I tell you mentioned the name Mel Kenyon, former Indy 500 veteran. Boy, there's a lot to talk about when we talk about Mel Kenyon.
And by golly, here he is.